Hello, it's Nicole with No, It's Crochet. Welcome or welcome back so much to the channel. I am so excited about today's video. We're going to be talking about something that sort of is an interesting concept in moving crochet from just a craft to being something that I consider more art. And how I usually define that is a craft is something where you kind of follow the directions. There's not a lot of variability. You have a pattern. You know what yarn because the designers told you what yarn. You might choose a different color. Maybe you might venture out and choose a different yarn manufacturer, but it's still going to be the same weight. It's still going to be the same makeup of yarn, but otherwise you basically just kind of follow the pattern. And for me, there is a whole lot more opportunity for crochet to be art than just that. Now, if that's what you like to do, absolutely, I love that for you. Me, I like to be a little bit more on the creative side. And I love to make these denim jackets. Let me lean way over so that I cut the sleeves off the denim jackets and then I crochet new sleeves onto them. And a lot of my jackets are basically just fairly basic in the idea that I pick a skein of yarn and that's the yarn that I use, and then I crochet it on and it's good to go. But lately I've been adventuring more into sort of what I consider the high fashion side of it, because let me show you. On this jacket, I took a recycled silk yarn that had all of these different tones and textures in the navy blue, but then I added a cuff. And this is a discontinued yarn that I had in my stock, but this is it's a Lion brand suede yarn. So it's kind of like a plush, almost like a velvet, but a little bit more suede-like than the velvet yarns are. And so it just kind of added more of an aesthetic cuff. So I love mixing those kind of yarns together, even though they're not like sold together. They're not necessarily, there's no pattern that says, hey, do this. I like to explore. I like to do different things like that. And that's what we're going to do today is we're going to explore some different textures and how we can pair those together and what that might look like. Okay, now that our model back there is redressed and not naked anymore, here's the box that I've got. So I don't know about you, but I've acquired a lot of yarn from my mother-in-law, who is a knitter mostly. And she's acquired yarn from several people that she has known. And so a lot of it is fancier yarn, the different textures of yarn that generally tend to work better in knitting than they do in crochet. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, we have this ladder yarn, if you've never seen ladder yarn before, it's quite an interesting thing. Now, can we crochet with this and can we do something interesting with it? Or we have this really interesting, let me see if I can pull some of this off so you can see it, thick and thin nubby yarn. Oops, I'm ripping the label. This is like really old yarn. I have no idea how old it is. Thick and thin nubby yarn. So there's like lots of bumps and lumps and stuff in there. And that certainly would not be something that normally we would want to crochet with. Or we have this yarn that has sequins on it. Can you see those shiny little sequins? They're just sequins that are sewn onto the yarn. And then, of course we have like the teddy bear yarn and the fuzzy yarns, the velvet yarns, and even like this is a, it's not mohair, but it's a mohair-like yarn where it's like super fuzzy for sure. Or what about our favorite eyelash yarn? I mean, how do we use all of these different yarns? And do we even want to? I do. I have this goal. So I purchased, as I was out thrifting jackets last year, I found this one. Actually, I found it on Poshmark. I got to tell the truth. And I fell in love. This jacket speaks my name. I love this jacket. But I feel like it is a higher end jacket, not a jacket that I'm going to wear every day, like that one would be. That one I could wear every day and get away with it, totally. This one, I feel like I want it to be a little bit more classy, a little bit more showstopper. That's the right word for it. So I want to kind of explore some of these different yarns and see what we can come up with. And see if we can't figure anything out in the process. Okay. So I have done some of this. Sorry, I'm bending down. So I have done some of this exploration before, and there are a few things that I've learned along the way. The first thing that I'm actually intrigued in is kind of matching. Like I recently actually bought these yarns from Little Knits because they were on sale, clearance, because I love this color. And I think this color with this jacket, oh, yes, please. This is like amazing. So this one I'm going to save because I know that I want to do something with it, with that jacket. I'm running out of space already. But even like this, I think would look really amazing with this, or this would look really amazing with this. And I even have this bag of little odds and ends. Why don't we start here? Because I know there's some random stuff in here. And so I know, okay, so this is your standard acrylic, just a small little ball. And I like the fact that we're starting here because this is just scraps, literally scraps. I will probably throw this out once we're done with this. This is it's almost like a boucle-ish, thick and thin kind of yarn. So interesting. We got some more of that acrylic. We have some of this. Now there are different ways that you can pair yarns together. Like it looks like this is strands that are held together. You can see there's a really thin sort of metallic yarn, and then there's a regular kind of almost acrylic yarn, and then there's this one with little things tied onto it. So you can pair those together for sure. And it looks like somewhere in here there's some fluffy eyelash yarn. We have some more of that. Oh, there's the fluffy eyelash yarn. All right, so I'm going to grab some of this acrylic because I think what we need to do is we need to start with a base. My suggestion, especially with like working with the denim jackets, if you're going to do anything with these, you want to start with a solid base to work from so that you're not getting, you know, you're not having to start off working in some really confusing things, because some of these yarns can get really confusing when you work on them. Now I'm just going to do a small swatch on these just so we can kind of see what they look like worked up and see whether or not we like them. And when I do a base, I do a chain, and then I do at least one row of either single crochet or half double crochet. Either one of those works. And I just do that because it's a little bit more stable, a little bit more structured. And sometimes I'll do the half double crochet because it gives me a little bit more height, but still a lot of the stability. And it sort of depends on the weight of the yarn as I'm experimenting with these. If it's a heavier weight yarn or like a chenille or something like that, I might do a full double crochet. Usually I just go with the half double crochet just to kind of give it some feels there. And as I'm working these up and we're kind of going back and forth talking, I also want to talk about some things that maybe you could do with these. I mean, because if you're watching this video, you're like, okay, this is fun to watch, but I'm probably never going to do anything like that. Let me share with you some different ideas of what you might be able to do with mixing some of these yarns. The first idea, obviously, kind of, taken off of that jacket there. Once you've finished a cardigan or something like that, you could take one of these fancier yarns and just add a little sleeve, a cuff to it, or a collar to it that kind of gives it a little bit more texture just in those key areas. That can certainly pizzazz it up a little bit, and that usually is better suited for either the eyelash yarns or the super fuzzy yarns. I don't know that you would want to do it with something like the ribbon yarn. Although you could take and string the ribbon yarn through like a double crochet so that it kind of goes in and out and gives a little bit of texture that way. Okay, so here we have just a small little smidge of a strip. Now we're going to add something else in here. Let's try this one. This is an interesting yarn. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before. And I can tell you, I don't see me keeping this particular bag of yarn for anything. It really is just random scraps. I don't know why I kept it in the first place. Oh, I do know why. Because I've always wanted to do something like this just to experiment. So one of the things that I've figured out is that you want to pick a hook size that is suitable for the largest yarn that you're going to be using. So if you're going to use a DK weight yarn and a chunky alpaca, then you want to make sure that your hook size is suitable for the chunky alpaca and stick to that. Now that means, got a snag there, a little tricky to kind of see where you're going with this yarn. But I'm actually kind of liking this. That means that you are probably going to have looser stitches when you're using that DK weight yarn, but that's just part of the artistic process. You don't necessarily want everything to be super tight and super clean. It gives it a little extra character when you have some space between some of the stitches and then other stitches are a little bit more snug. Now I've seen, I think it was Crochet with Coffee recently did a scrap blanket where she literally would just pick yarn up and add that in at random. She didn't look, she just did it. And she would double or triple up the yarn if it was not the heaviest weight yarn. And that absolutely works as well. So if you want a yarn that is thinner than your biggest yarn, you can double or triple it up so that it works. So that way it's not making quite as many gaps. Or you can just use the gaps as part of the character of the project, for sure. All right, this is, I definitely don't, this yarn is not the worst yarn that I've ever worked with, for sure. It feels like it's like, it just kind of keeps, snagging here and there. And but that's actually an interesting texture. It kind of gives a little, can you see that? I mean, the colors don't show up that well. Differing colors aren't showing up, but you kind of get the idea there. Let's try this one and see how some of this works into it. These I'm sure these little ribbons that are hanging off are going to create a little bit of a snag. Now what I do, I mean, you can join these however you normally would do a join. This isn't really a tutorial on joining your yarns, but I just kind of do a slip stitch, or, you know, that starting stitch. What is that called? I don't know. And then, you know, pull it through the loop. But again, this isn't really a tutorial on that. So figure out how you join your yarns, and then that, you know, just kind of do the same thing here. So on this row, I'm doing a double crochet just to add a little different texture. Some of these yarns, as you start to crochet with them, they're definitely harder to crochet with. A lot of times a larger hook is going to be your friend because it's not having to pull through quite as tight of a stitch overall if you have a larger hook. And just practice with it. It can take a little bit of practice, and that's okay. Oops, I don't know what that's doing. We're going to try and pull that down here. There we go. But I think, oh, you know what? Christmas stockings or ornaments, doing some of these different textured yarns and using them up for Christmas ornaments, I think would add a really fun element to your Christmas ornaments. Or you could do a cowl or a scarf. In fact, I've got a couple of yarns down here picked out that I want to try making a cowl. Now, normally I don't make cowls because, well, one, because I live in Arizona. Where the heck am I going to wear a cowl? But two, because I also don't generally love to have things around my neck, and that can be really challenging for me. But, you know, they're kind of fun. So if I can make a lightweight enough one that isn't really bulky with big enough stitches, okay, so that is super fun. I think that just adds so much fun to your print. I'm looking over my camera is not my camera. My computer's right over here, so I'm looking at my computer as I'm investigating. I love that. I think it is so unique and so pretty. Let me know what you think of this one. This would look, oh my gosh, because 2026 is cloud white, is the color of the year. If I had enough of this, oh, this would make a lovely, lovely jacket sleeve. I think that would be so much fun and so classy. Okay, I'm going to put these aside for now. Let's pull out another one and play with it. Okay, so I really want to make a cowl with these, or maybe a scarf. I don't know, one of the two, but I did start making a scarf, and I don't know, it's just kind of meh. I don't love it. So I've got these, since I got this color, I think there's enough reds and oranges to look good with this. And the question, and these are both kind of tricky yarns to work with together. I mean, this isn't really tricky, you just have to know what you're doing. So let's start with this one, I guess. We're going to break our rule and do the harder one first. I'm going to use a size 7 hook, I think, on this one, because this is definitely a chunkier yarn, and because I may be thinking not that warm of a cowl, but just a little bit looser, and so I want a looser kind of fit overall. So let's see. Let's see how this works out. I have figured out that, I mean, I love this fuzzy yarn. I think it's so much fun. It is not husky friendly at all. And the reason for that is because it attracts every bit of husky fur that I get into. So I cannot crochet with any sort of mohair or fuzzy yarn if I'm going to be anywhere near my dog. And so, I mean, I've pretty much decided that my dog is more important than crocheting with fuzzy-ish yarn. So she takes priority. She's not, I mean, she's just my joy. She's my love. I have always wanted a husky my whole life. I digress. So we're just, I'm doing a double crochet on this one, again, because I kind of want something that is, even though this is a very warm, you could do a really dense stitch on this, I want something that's a little bit lighter and airier because I live in Arizona. And so we're just doing a double crochet on this. Oops, get in there. Get in there. And we'll see what this looks like once we add in the tape yarn. So I want to know in the comments, what kind of extra yarns do you have? Or like sitting around trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do with that? Okay, so there's our basic bottom row. Now we're going to take this tape yarn. Oh my gosh, I think I'm going to like this. So do you have like the sparkly sequin yarn? Do you have some of this tape yarn? Do you have the ladder yarn? Do you have some boucle? That's really a popular yarn too. Oops, I'm trying to get that tail weaved in as I go, which I don't know why I'm worried about it at the moment because this is not like a project, but it just makes things look a little cleaner. Oh yeah. I can't wait till you can see this a little bit better. This is so cute. Oh yeah. And for me, mixing these elements just takes everything up a notch. And I think part of it's because there are not very, very, very few patterns have I seen for crochet that mixes yarn structures like this, that mixes the texture and the fiber and that kind of thing. So because there's not a lot out there, I feel like I'm kind of, you know, creating art when I do something with it. Oh, this is so pretty. Okay, I'm going to do an extra row on this just so that you can kind of see how it ends up working together when you alternate. You know what? I'm going to do the next row as single crochet because I don't want it quite as thick on the next row. That's just part of the experimenting process, right? You know, you say, oh, how am I going to do that? Now, a lot of the gals that I crochet with on a weekly basis, we get together at a Panera and we crochet and chit chat. Well, actually, the vast majority of them knit. I and one other gal, I'm the only strictly crocheter. Then there's one other gal that crochets probably a little bit more than 50%, but also knits. And then there's another gal who knits primarily, but every now and again, if she has to do a baby blanket, she'll crochet. And the vast majority of them say that they would never not follow a pattern. So I'm curious from you, would you ever not follow a pattern? Would you create your own thing? if you follow a pattern, do you have a tendency to deviate if something isn't quite working for you? Like I had a project I was working on yesterday, and I'm like, okay, I don't understand what she's trying to do here, but I understand what the end goal is. So I'm just gonna go with my own gut on it. So I didn't end up following the rest of the pattern for that, but at least I had a sort of a guide, a rough guide to say, here, here's the general concept, and then go from there. I do that a lot. And I think that is what a lot of people end up doing is, they might take that initial pattern concept and maybe either they're like me who, I'm pretty decent at reading patterns, but I'm not amazing at it. So when I get stuck on something, I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to wing it from here. And most of the time it works out. Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it does. Okay, this this is so pretty. I mean, yes, for like a holiday season. And I don't know if I'll do a scarf or a cowl. I think I'll do a cowl with this. Look at that. Look at how lovely that is. Okay, that is so pretty. Yeah. All right. I'm going to take pictures of all these at the end and share them with you so you can see. My holding it up like this doesn't really do it justice. So we'll do that at the end. What do you want to see next? Should we try something with, oh, I've got one. Okay. I think I'm going to go down to a size 6 on this one. So this is that suede yarn that I used on the sleeves for this. Different color. And some really slippery, silky, with a little bit of glitter. So this is going to be a much thinner yarn than this. Let's see what we can do with that. Okay, I'm going to start with the suede yarn because I think it's going to give me a better base. Now, the fun thing about using some of these yarns, you can use them as an integral part of the project, or you could just do it as like a little bit of an embellishment. So maybe the whole thing doesn't include alternating rows. Maybe you add just one key row somewhere in it, or maybe just like every 5th row you add a little extra texture or color to something. Or maybe it's just the trim, like I said, with the sleeves or something like that. You could make bags doing this. That would be a great place to sort of experiment and get started, is using some of these different yarns to make some fun, high fashion bags or purses that you could carry around and just play with a little bit. It's all about experimenting and having fun with the yarns that you're using. That's what I love about it. It's so much fun. Oh, here's another idea. You're not sure about wearables? You're not sure about the accessory of actually carrying a bag? Make a wall hanging. You know what? It doesn't have to be tapestry. We always think of wall hangings as being tapestry or something like that when we crochet. It doesn't have to be tapestry. It could be just like a wider scarf and, just a flat square or rectangle shape. That's it, but you're doing different mediums. Now, there used to be a thing back in the 80s, I guess, where they did all of these different wall hangings using, I don't know where the end of this yarn is. This is the kind of yarn you cannot keep wound. It doesn't stay wound. Where was I? Oh, yes. Back in the 80s, those projects where, you know, they'll use like a bunch of really fluffy, almost roving kind of cottony stuff. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do as I'm thinking about this, I'm going to double this up just to make it a little bit more chunky. And where were we? Oh, yeah. So you can make a wall hanging with these and just do it as like almost a, what do they call those? Sample something, mixed media. Yes, that, whatever that is. And just, you know, do some fun stuff. And then when you do it that way, the neat thing is you just hang it up and you have a piece of art. So whether you like to get a little bit more monotone on the colors like I am generally doing, or if you like to go really wild with your colors, you can certainly do whatever works for you. All right, so this is actually a little bit of a thick and thin yarn as well. So this is going to give a really interesting contrast to the super chunky suede-like yarn. Are you having fun? I am. This is so cool. I love doing this. Now, some of these are going to be really helped out by blocking. So if your textures are a little bit off or your stitches are a little bit off when you first do it, that's okay because you can block it and clean it up a little bit. Okay, so I almost ran out of that second row. So I'm not going to do another row on that, but you can kind of see what that looks like too. I think that's so unique and so fun. It's so cool. Oh, I love it. Okay. I could go on and on for this for hours. I really could. But I want to show you one more project. I've been working up some samples for that, but I'm not going to show you those samples right now. Let me know if you want to see some more of these, and we'll do another one of these just fun, creative kind of things. But I did want to show you another idea I had. So if you've been around for a while, last winter, I was working on a Christmas top that has granny squares. Let me open this without making a loud noise. And these were the granny squares, right? I still have all of these granny squares. The problem is that the pattern was not very size inclusive. It only had like 2 sizes really, and this ended up being too small. It was going to be too small. So I put it away. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that because obviously I can't frog it when you've made all these granny squares. I'll do something with the granny squares. I just didn't know what it was. So as I've been sort of mentally exploring this idea, I'm like, ooh, I have this Bernat boa, okay? This is old yarn, totally discontinued. It is like an eyelash yarn. And what if I use that to seam these together and made a cardigan instead? Since it's too small across the chest here, it was fine on the back, but of course I have larger breasts, so it wasn't going to fit. So I can just skip the middle row and just do a cardigan with that together, sewing those together. And when I don't have to go back in and stitch into another one of these, it's really easy to use this eyelash yarn. If you have to like turn around and go back into the stitch again, that's when it gets really tricky. So that's what I think I'm going to do with this. I mean, this is not a tomorrow project. This is down the road. But just playing around with it, I think that's a really cool use of this yarn too, is to connect different granny squares with it and give those granny squares some extra texture. Now, let me show you some of the swatches and up close, and we'll, you know, figure it out. Let's see, which one do you like the best? Okay, if I have to pick my favorite, I would say right now that it is definitely this one. I think this is just the coolest texture, and you know, it's just so interesting overall. I think it's neat. I love it. And let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you love the idea of this? Is this something that you would ever try yourself? And do you want to see more of these? Because I have fun doing them. Thank you so much. Farah, frog us out of here.